Hey there, welcome to IT Brain. So this is my very first video about Java basics and fundamental. So we are going to talk about the differences of JVM, JDK and JRE. So any developer before start coding, they need to aware of what is the basic differences about JVM, JDK and JRE. And to understand the fundamental is very much important. So without wasting time, let us jump in to understand what are the differences and why basically we are using those. Well, so before we start about JVM, JDK and JRE from a developer point of view, we need to understand day-to-day basis whenever you are writing the code, what are the different executions that you do, right? So obviously you'd be writing the code and that is something done by a developer like you and me. Whenever you're writing the code, after that you would be compiling the code, right? And that is done by a particular compiler, right? What is that compiler all about? I'll come in a minute. And ultimately after the compiling the code, if it is successful, you'll be executing the code, right? And that is normally done by a runtime environment, right? That's what we normally as a kind of basic concept. So now all those three stages, right? Where exactly the JVM, JDK and JRE comes in picture and how it is used, right? Let us see. So JVM is nothing but stand for Java Virtual Machine, right? As it's basically the name suggests, it's a virtual machine. So it provides a virtual instance, right? That is required for runtime to make your application run, right? Whatever things you have written in the code. So it is providing the runtime instances. That's what the JVM does. It is basically a virtual instance present in your machine. Physically, there is nothing is present. So now we have the next one is called JRE. That is nothing but a Java runtime environment, right? So what is the use of JRE is like it is basically JVM and included of some other required libraries, like if you like to run applet based code or say like browser specific support, those different libraries are included on top of JVM, and that's what we have encapsulated in the Java runtime environment. This is only used to run the code. That's what it does, right? So so think about a scenario like today you are building some code in your Windows environment, right? And that code you want to run it in our Linux environment. So if you have Java runtime environment, you'll be still able to run the code, right? But without modifying or compiling the changes that you have basically done. So it basically provides only the runtime environment that actually meant for running the code. The next one is like, if you think about, we are having Java development kit, that is JDK, as the picture demonstrated. So we have JDK that is inclusive of your JRE and required libs and as well as your development libs, right? So what do you mean by development libs? So obviously, like whenever you are writing some program, that means like you'll be doing some debugging, you'll be regenerating your Java doc. So that is nothing but documentation about your different Java APIs or in terms of the functionality that you're delivering it, as well as obviously you'll be runtime compiling it, right? That particular functionality provided by your JDK. So that is nothing but your Java development kit. So if you think about in terms of the local development, whatever you are doing, right? So if you are only having JDK, that is inclusive of your JRE required libraries and development kit. That's what all you need. But still, if you like to run only the program, right? So you can only have your JRE environment. You don't need JDK for that. So as we have seen now the various differences between JVM, JDK and JRE, now have a quick look around each of those in a different individually. So we'll first talk about Java Virtual Machine, JVM again. So the JVM, the functionality of is like if it is an abstract machine and it is provided the virtual instance that is used for the runtime whenever the application or the code being run. The major benefit of using JVM, it is providing the WADA feature, that is nothing but once you code, right, you can run anywhere. That is what the feature it is being provided, and that makes the Java is like a platform independent despite of JVM and others, though it is platform dependent. Also, like if you talk about JVM various life cycles, so it is basically depends upon the various phases. So first of all, whenever you compile the code, whenever your .class files or the byte files are generated, it basically load the code. It verifies the code. So verifies the code in the sense like it check whether it is generated from the valid compiler, whether all the syntax and everything is correct, and also like it then execute the code and it's provide the runtime instance. That's what the JVM does. Now have a quick look for the JRE, that is nothing but a Java runtime environment. As we have explained earlier, it is basically the superset of your JVM. So along with JVM, you would be having your required libraries that is used for running this, kind of overall the runtime environment to make sure you are able to run it out applet-like programming or say like in a browser compatibility support, right? So those leaves are included. So as basically it says, it is an implementation of JVM because obviously the JVM, whatever it provides a virtual instance, but the implementation being provided by JRE. It is in fact physically exist in your system. So whenever you are downloading the JRE and others, it will be physically installed in your system. It basically helps to run the code and it is inclusive of the other runtime support lib. And let us finally talk about JDK, that is nothing but Java Development Kit. As we have explained earlier, this is the superset of your JRE and other development libraries that is supported for your local development. So most of the developer who does the development in your local system, right, mostly we use JDK. So what we do is like we download the JDK and finally basically we try to use the class path settings and others, and then basically we used to start the development. That's what the normally follows happen because this JDK is inclusive of your all the development supported packages or libraries, inclusive of your debugging, compiling, and also like Java docs you can generate. So like whatever things are you can think about to record for your development purpose, everything is available inside the JDK. And as it is a superset of JRE, so obviously you can think about using JDK, you can run the program or you can execute the program as well. So that is what the JDK is all about. So it is inclusive of your JRE. So that would be inclusive of your JVM as well as other development kit. Now as we have a good understanding about JVM, JDK and JRE and their usage, so let's have a quick recap in terms of the basic differences and usage. So as we have said earlier, the JVM is nothing but Java virtual machine. It's provide you the runtime instance, and JRE is nothing but it's a superset of JVM. It has other required libraries apart from your JVM that helps to actually run the code. And ultimately we are having JDK, that is nothing but a superset of your JVM and JRE, and along with your development libs. So that is normally used for your compiling, debugging and running the code. Now there is $1 million question is like why kind of Java is independent where JVM, JRE and JDK is not. So if you think you are running your application in your Windows environment and later you want to just move it to the Linux environment, so expectation is like it should be running as it is. So that's what the Java promises and it is supposed to be. So how does it happen, right? Because your JVM and your JRE might be different from different platform and operating system, right? So how it happens is like whenever you are compiling the code, it is generates a machine readable format that is nothing but your class file or the byte code we say. And ultimately it doesn't matter which JVM you're using it, right? The interpreter what you are using it produces the same output. That makes the Java is like platform independent despite of JVM, JRE and JDK are platform dependent. Thank you for watching the video. Hope this information would be useful to you. Please do subscribe, share and the comment in my channel and hit the bell icon to get further notification for any other new videos that I will be uploading.